Shall we start now?
Yes.
Okay. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the last day of ICCE 2021. For today's programs, in this conference hall, we will begin with meeting the keynote speaker, Professor Gwo-Jen HWANG, Chair Professor of Graduate Institute of Digital Learning and Education in National Taiwan University of Science and Technology. And after that, at around 11, we will start our closing ceremony by announcing FC Merit Scholarship and ICCE Awards. Then you will enjoy the live performance from Thailand. And we will end today's event with introducing the next host for ICCE. Ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, may I invite Professor Rodrigo to introduce our keynote speaker. Please welcome.
Thank you, everyone. Good morning. Our keynote speaker today is Professor Gwo-Jen HWANG. He is the Chair Professor of Graduate Institute of Digital Learning and Education in National Taiwan University of Science and Technology. He serves as an editorial board member and a reviewer for more than 40 academic journals of educational technology and e-learning. Currently, he is editor-in-chief and lead editor of Australasia Journal of Educational Technology, International Journal of Mobile Learning and Organization, Journal of Computers in Education, and Computers in Education Artificial Intelligence. Professor HWANG has published more than 700 academic papers, including more than 200 SSTI journal papers. Owing to his reputation in academic research and innovative inventions in e-learning, he received the annual Most Outstanding Researcher Award from the National Science Council of Taiwan in the years 2007, 2010, and 2013. Moreover, in 2016, he was announced by Times Higher Education as being the most prolific and cited researcher in the world in the field of social sciences. Thank you very much for joining us, Professor HWANG. Please, to the audience, please welcome our keynote speaker, Professor Gwo-Jen HWANG.
Thank you for your introduction. Now I shall share my screen with you. Okay, thank you. And first of all, I would like to say that it's my great honor to give a talk in ICCE, because I know that ICCE is one of the most famous, most important conference of e-learning. And today I would like to talk about something about research design of AIED, artificial intelligence in education in the mobile era. First of all, I would like to briefly define what is AI. AI refers to the research aiming at developing computer program with the ability to perceive, reason, and solve problems. That means we try to enable computer to have human intelligence, to behave like human. Okay. In the early time, we categorize the research of AI into several fields. For example, intelligent system or intelligent games, such as chessing game, and also robots, computer vision, natural language, which enable a computer to realize what people talk, okay, what people say, and the problem solving expert system, which enable computer to behavior like domain expert to solve some particular domain problem, such as to behavior like a medical doctor. Also, neural network, now it become a deep learning, is a new technology for to enable computer to learn from the case they faces and then become more and more intelligent. Also, computer voice or speech recognition. And by searching Google's Scholar's database using those keywords, we find that in early year, there are only less than 10 articles published per year. But now in recent year, every year, there are more than 600 articles related to AIED published in a conference or in journals. And if we focus on some quality SSCI journal of e-learning, such as Computer and Education, Educational Technology and Society, Interactive Learning Environment, British Journal of Educational Technology, or Educational Technology Research and Development, ETRD, or Journal of Computer Assisted Learning, we also find that those Q1 SSCI journal also have more and more publication related to AIED in recent 3 years. So I have to say that this is the time for developing AIED study. However, there are usually some challenges to a computer science researcher, okay, who might be able to develop some intelligent system, but they usually encounter some difficulty when they try to submit a paper to those e-learning journal, in particular those Q1 SSCI journal, okay. So what happened to them, okay? Usually they don't know. They know how to develop the AI system, but they don't know how to show the contribution of their study. That is, they usually do not know how to design and experiment to evaluate the performance of the system they developed. Okay, so I ever reviewed several papers about AIED, and the author developed a very fancy system, but they only use some questionnaire to ask a student, are you satisfied with the system? Or asking the teacher, are you satisfied with the system? And the teacher and the student say, yes, we are satisfied. And they say, okay, you see, the system is good. And then they submit the paper to the SSCI journal. Usually their paper were rejected or into the weak evaluation section. Okay, so also it's not good enough to compare the speed or accuracy of AI algorithm using some test data, because in the educational technology journal, we would like to see how the system or your strategy can benefit students, yeah, using experiment in some courses. Okay, so of course I know in computer science journal they usually allow you to show, okay, my algorithm is more efficient or more efficient using some test data, but this will not be accepted in some SSCI journals. So what the computer science researcher need to learn is to learn to design a course experiment or a true experiment. Okay, I think course experiment is easier to researchers. Yeah, and that this a course experiment means we need to find 2 classes of students, and one class use the AI system developed by the researchers, and the other class might learn with the conventional approach. So the author can compare the pre-test and post-test of the 2 groups. Okay, the group using the AI approach and the other group using conventional approach, and we have pre-test and post-test, or pre-questionnaire and post-questionnaire. We can compare their performance using those measuring tools. So the author also need to learn to use some statistical analysis methods such as t-test or ANCOVA to analyze the data collect from the 2 classes of students. Okay, so if you know, but for most of computer science researchers, they don't know that. They don't know how to use statistical analysis. So maybe in that, if this is the case, then they can cooperate with those educational researchers too. Okay. So I would like to give you an example. Okay, this paper is published in 2020 in Computer and Education AI, and in this study we developed a fuzzy expert system for adaptive learning by taking into account both affective and cognitive factor of students. And this is the structure of the system. Okay, I skip this slide. Okay, and this is the user interface. We try to teach them mathematics using the adaptive learning content. And then also we have some pop-up window to check if the student have concentrated on the online learning material. And in this study, we designed a 3 group. That means 2 experimental group and 1 control group. In fact, usually you only need 2 groups. Okay, 1 experiment group and 1 control group. But in this study, we use 3 because we have 2 factors to be taken into account. The one is the adaptive learning system with both affection and the connection analysis mechanism. And the other one is only use cognitive performance analysis mechanism. And the control group learn with a conventional learning system. So this is what should be presented after we conduct the experiment. Okay, we need to compare the performance of the student in the control group and then the experimental group. Okay, so this is what should be presented if you want to submit such AIED study to some SSCI journal of e-learning. On the other hand, there are also challenges to educational technology researchers in conducting AIED study. I think many researchers with educational background want to do something about AIED. They are curious what AI can do, and then they will try to do something, but they might hesitate to do that because they say, okay, I don't know how to implement an AI system, so I might not be able to conduct AIED research, but that is not true. Okay, I will tell you how to do that. Okay, so the most important thing for educational background researcher is to know what AI is. Okay, they need to know what AI is. Okay, so they need to know the definition of AI and the function of AI system. Also, they need to learn to identify whether an application is AI related or not. Okay, you cannot say, okay, I conducted the AIED study and I choose an AI application and in my study, but eventually someone tell you that this is not AI. Okay, that's embarrassing. Okay, so they need to learn to search for application, applicable AI system for the study. Okay, so they need to be able to identify this application and AI-based system or not. For example, when someone uses some chatbot, okay, in their courses for teaching English or for language education or for science education, is that chatbot AI-based system or not? Okay, they need to be able to identify. Okay, so I would like to briefly define AIED. Okay, what is AIED? There are broad sense and the narrow sense definition of AIED. Okay, so from the narrow sense definition, some researchers consider that we need to use modern AI technology such as deep learning, okay, or neural network to enable the system to learn as well as perceive a reason and solve problem. So they consider that is AIED. So the system need to have the ability to learn something on their own. Okay, they use some deep learning or other machine learning technology. They say this is AI. Okay, this is a narrow sense definition. But from a broad sense definition, that's what I use. Okay, as well as the system can perceive a reason and solve problem like human being, then we say that's an AI system. Okay, that's a broad sense definition. So the system might not have the ability to learn on their own, but they can behave like human being, then we say that's AI system. So it's quite complex when we try to do that because, you know, there are some AI technology, there are computer education, yeah, there are some conventional computer technology such as data mining and or such as some learning analytics. And from, in my opinion, I all consider those technology belong to AI because they can enable computers program to perceive, reason, and solve problems like human being. As long as the system can do that, I say that's an AI system. So from this version of definitions, there are a lot of AI algorithms that can be taken into account. Okay, for example, some conventional AI algorithms such as evaluationary algorithm, or some statistic method such as Bayesian inference and network. Okay, some conventional computer algorithms such as search and optimization or fuzzy set theory. Of course, they are modern AI technology such as deep learning and neural network, and also some conventional AI technology such as case-based relearning or such conventional computer science technology such as data mining or other traditional machine learning approach. Or we can even use some statistics method to such as linear regression or polynomial regression to make prediction or reasoning like human being. Then we say that is a kind of AI. Of course, there are natural language processing such as those language learning chatbot. Okay, they can use freestyle conversation interface. They can know what people say, what people the meaning of what people are talking about, and then they can make response to what people say. Okay, and that's we call that natural language processing. And I think that's a kind of AI. Also, there are some method for helping people to transfer domain expert knowledge into a knowledge base, and then let the system behavior like domain expert. Of course, we call that expert system. We also call those methods some part of the AI method. Okay, so if you want to know more, you can refer to this paper published in mathematics this year. So there are some solutions to educational technology researchers if they cannot develop their own AI system. It's fine. You can still do some AI-ED studies. And the first solution is to using existing application in research design. Okay, so in fact, I usually teach the researchers in Taiwan to search for intelligent or image recognition or voice recognition app from the Google Store, and they can download to see if the application meet the need in their courses. Okay, if they meet the need, then they can try to use those systems in their research design. Of course, they need to identify what kind of AI algorithm used in the system. Okay, and then the other way is to cooperate with computer science people who can develop an AI system for you. This is, of course, another solution. Usually, we would like to have some function in our system, such as image recognition using a neural network or deep learning, or some expert system using rule-based inference or other AI algorithm. Okay, so we have two solutions for educational background researchers. Okay, using the existing one in your study, or cooperate with computer science researchers who help you develop the AI system you need. But usually I will choose the first one. Okay, so there are many existing AI-based applications, in particular for language learning. Okay, for example, this AI, this is the Andy English bot. It can help EFL, English as foreign language student, to practicing speaking or grammar, okay, of English. So so it can engage students in practicing day-to-day interaction, and also they can learn to ask and answer questions or discuss some specific topics. Or they can learn grammar of English. Okay. Okay, this is the interface of the system. So students can talk to the system about their daily life experience, or they can learn some new words or learn some grammar, okay, from the systems. This is what we, in fact, what we use in our English class in my university. And also, I would like to say that because it's the mobile era, in fact, I don't need to emphasize that at all. Okay, almost everyone have a smartphone. In some primary school, we use a tablet computer. Okay, so it is now the time to provide the personalized learning guidance or support. In particular, when we say mobile learning in a field trip, okay, using mobile devices, I think AI can help to do that. Also, in the mobile era, AI can enable students to have more personal practicing opportunity with those AI applications, such as the ND chatbot I just mentioned. And so this is another application we use in Taiwan, and this is called the 形色, meaning shape and color. The app can identify flower and plant. In fact, it's also fruit. Okay, but when you take photo on the learning target in the real world, so when a student were in a field trip and then they find some plant, and then they can take photo on the plant, and then there's a huge database in this system. The system can immediately, 1 second, and then tell the student the name of this flower as well as the story, any detail of those flower or those plant. Also, the system can record where the plant was found by the student using GPS. Okay, and then the system can automatically collect and categorize the plant found by the student during the field trip, and then that enables the student to share what he or she have found during the field trip to their classmate. Okay, of course, it can also identify some fruit. If you identify some fruit, then the system will tell you, okay, how many calories this fruit had, and the nutrition in this group, in this fruit. Okay, so when we do that, then we need to present our finding or our research design in an AIED article. So how to write an AIED article? In the introduction section, we need to state why an AI-based learning approach is needed. Usually, we will say that because we need some personalized support from the system. No matter we are in a field trip or we are in a classroom, we need some personal support, and AI is a good way to do that. Okay, and also we will say that the student needs more practice opportunity because the AI system can play the role of a teacher. Generally, they can play the role of a teacher to provide students some assessment result or provide students some personalized feedback based on their practice outcome. Also, in the literature review section, of course, we need to define what AI is and the definition adapt in your study. So if you use a broad sense definition, then you can say that in this study we choose a broad sense definition of AI. Okay, and then you need to introduce what have been adapted in your study. So I have some suggested AI ED research topics for you. The first one is to do some systematic review. This I have done that a lot. You can search my name on Google or on Scopus or on WOS. You will find I have published a series of AI ED review studies. And because when we try to conduct some study in a new direction, we will try to know what have been done in that field, right? So I will do some review first. Okay, so we have review of AI in e-learning, review of AI in mathematics education, or in language learning, or in science education, or in mobile learning. For example, this is what we publish in ILE, in the active learning environment. It is now a Q1 SHI journal, and we talk about AI supported e-learning. And this is what we publish in mathematics. Okay, is also, I think it's SCI or SHI, no, I forget. But we talk about the AI in mathematics education. And also this is another paper published in ILE. We talk about the AI in language learning or language education. And this is a paper published in International Journal of Mobile Learning and Organization. We talk about how AI support mobile learning based on the review from of the publication from 1995 to 2019. So you might wonder how can we conduct a systematic review. So I would like to briefly tell you how to do that. Okay, first of all, you need to determine the main thing of the review. For example, AI plus something. Okay, because AI is a big topic, so the number of publications might be too many for you to review because we need to read every article. So we need to narrow down the scope. For example, AI plus mathematics, or AI in mathematics education, or AI plus free learning, or something like that. AI plus game-based learning, something like that. Okay, we need to avoid choosing a very big topics. Okay, and then we need to determine the data sources. Usually we have two ways to do that. One is to choose a database, for example, Scopus or WOS. Or the other is to choose a set of well-recognized e-learning journal. Okay, to ensure that the paper we review are very high quality. Okay, very representative. Okay, so usually we only, no matter which one we choose, we only review journal paper, because usually journal paper have been reviewed more strictly. Okay, and then we need to determine the time duration. How many years do we want to review? The past 5 years, or past 10 years, or past 20 years, or the whole time? Okay. And then we need to determine the keyword set to search for the article we need. And it is sometimes a little bit complex, okay, because in different paper, they might not use AI directly. They might use machine learning, or they might use intelligence support. They might use personalized learning or personalized tutor. So as you can see that we use a big set to search for all possible article from the database. Okay, for example, AI in e-learning, then AI should be a set of keyword, and e-learning should be another set of keyword, because someone use web-based learning, someone use online learning, or something else. Okay, then we add those two together to search that in the database. Usually, if you do the search and you find that there are thousands of articles, then I think the scope is too wide. You need to narrow down the scope. Usually, after you search, if the number of article is around 60 to 120, is a good number. Okay, because it's not too small. The sample size is not too small, but not too big. Okay, sometimes it's too big for you to review. Okay, so for example, when we search mobile collaborative learning, and we find 90 from a WS database, we find 90 journal paper. And when we analyze review study about mobile learning study in nursing education, the whole time, okay, we only find 97, because the number is quite few, because in the nursing education field, only a small number of mobile learning studies. So we search from 1971. That's the whole time. And from Google Scopus database, and only 97 journal paper were found. So we just review those 97 journal paper. And free learning in medical education, we find 60. It's okay. And AI in e-learning is 86 journal paper. Okay, and AI in mathematics only 43, but it's not too bad. So we still conduct the review study. But if it's only 10 or only 9 articles, I think we cannot conduct the review because the number is too small. So usually we will show this graph to show how we select those articles including in our review. Okay, the first key word set and the second keyword set, and then we ended it together. We find 2071 article initially, but we need to manually check each article. Okay, then after manually check, we only left 87 article, and then we remove our article. Okay, this is we select it from educational scientific discipline. So it's 87, and then we manually check, we remove 1. Then eventually we take into account 86 articles in this study. Also, we need to determine a theoretical model. That means when you have a theoretical model and then you know what to review. Okay, when you read the paper, what is the point? When you read the paper, you need to catch the point and then report what you found to the author. So the theoretical model will determine the research question and the dimension to be reviewed. Okay, so for example, in this model, we call it TBL model, technology-based learning model. This model describes that when we try to analyze e-learning article, we need to, we have several dimensions that need to be taken into account. For example, the research purpose and the learning domain, application domain, or the sample groups, and also the learning strategy they use, the research method they adopt, also the technology they adopt. Okay, this is very complete model to describe what an e-learning study is. Okay, so based on the model, we can define our research question. Okay. And then we need to choose coding scheme for each dimension. For example, sample group, and we categorize the sample group into elementary school student, junior high school student, higher education, and teachers, mixed group, or non-specified. For example, there are some position paper or there are some review study. There are no sample group. Okay, and the research method usually we categorize into quantitative, qualitative, and mixed method. And the roles of AI, okay, what is the role played by AI system in their study? Okay, to do what? Okay, there's a coding scheme, something like that. Okay, usually we will refer to the literature when we determine the coding scheme. Usually we don't define the coding scheme on our own. We just refer to some previous review article and use their coding scheme or almost slightly modify their coding scheme. Okay. Okay, so the first AID research I recommended is to write some review study. Okay, and the second suggestion is that of course we can investigate the effect of using AI, existing AI application. I mean, when we download some AI application from Google Store or Apple Store. Okay, we can try to use that to show how AI application can help students learn better. So this is, I think, most straightforward thing, research design. We just try to compare the use of AI application and the conventional learning. Okay, so we can use pre-test and post-test or pre-questionnaire and post-questionnaire to evaluate students, the two classes of students' performance before and after the learning activity. That's why I tell you that the researchers should learn how to search for AI application from Google Store or from the internet. Okay. And of course, we can use those AI application in some well-defined learning activity. For example, if the control group could be conventional inquiry-based learning. This is a very good learning design, right? But in a experimental group, we can try to use AI application to support query-based learning design, such as the 形式. Do you still remember that? The application that can recognize the plans and give students some advice and then give them some detail, and also can use GPS to record where they find the plan. You can use, one group can use that AI application, and the other group will just use conventional inquiry-based learning use. Okay, and then we can use pre-test and post-test, pre-questionnaire, post-questionnaire to compare the performance of the two groups. I think that's an interesting learning design. Of course, we can also use the same design in project-based learning or even STEM activity. For example, in this study, we use a mobile chatbot. In fact, that chatbot is an existing one. We did not develop the chatbot, but we use that chatbot in a nursing training, and we published this paper in a BJET. This is also a Q1 SHI journal. Okay, this is a very simple design, right? The one is an AI chatbot, and the other is a traditional instruction. We just compare the two. So we have pre-test and pre-questionnaire, and then we, of course, we have some common training content, and then we have post-test and post-questionnaire, and we do some interview to compare the performance and students' perception of the two groups. And this is what happened during the learning process. Usually we will show the photo and the system interface to the readers. Okay, this is what the student, how the student talk to the AI chatbot. Okay, this is the same. Okay, and this is the result. As I mentioned, if we need to have a research experimental design, and we need to use statistics method. In this study, we use ANCOVA to show that by excluding the pre-test score, the students post-test, the experimental group of students post-test is significantly higher than that of the control group. So this implies that the use of AI application can benefit students. Okay, this is the questionnaire result. Okay, it's the cell efficacy. Also show that that AI application can benefit students in improving their cell efficacy during the learning process. Okay, and the third suggest topic is to incorporating an effective strategy into AI-based learning context. As I have mentioned, in many English courses, we already use AI application to let students practice more, such as the English ND bot, okay, ND chatbot in English courses. Okay, so in that case, we use ND chatbot, I mean the AI application, as the control group. So because it's a conventional way from our perspective. Okay, so in the conventional, we already use AI application in our courses. So in the experimental group, we try to incorporating an effective strategy or tools into the courses. So we, for example, we use concept mapping based AI application. Okay, that means the student, when they talk to the AI chatbot, they need to use concept map to organize what they have learned, what they are going to talk. And okay, and then we found that, okay, the result is quite good, and then we can write a paper how we use and propose a concept mapping based AI application. And this is example of similar learning design, research design. In this study, the author, in fact, the first author is one of my students. He is already an assistant professor in a university. Okay, he conduct a research regarding use of dynamic assessment into speech recognition learning design. So both groups use speech recognition application. Okay, both groups, but in a control in the experimental group, they use the dynamic assessment based approach, okay, to work with the AI-based context, okay, and the control group only use those AI-based application. So it's the same, they compare the pre-test and post-test result. And the fourth suggestion is that we can investigating factor affecting learners or trainers' intention of using AI. I think this is a very interesting topics, right? So for example, we have tried to investigate factor affecting medical staff's intention to learn to use AI in hospital. Okay, or the factor affecting student intention to learn AI in science courses or in language course or in other courses. Okay, or we can use an extended TM model with SEM analysis. Of course, if you want to do such kinds of research, you need to be able to use structured equation method and model. Okay, that's a very high-end statistics approach. Okay, if you know that, you can do this kind of research. For example, in this study, we published a paper named From Precision Education to Precision Medicine. We try to analyze the factor affecting medical staff's intention to learn to use AI application in hospital. So the subjects were the staff in a hospital. Okay, this is our model. In fact, we use an extended TM model to do that. So the model is very old, but the topic is new. Okay. And this is another paper published by one of my students. Yeah, and she tried to use a similar model to investigate the factor affecting the adoption of AI-based application in higher education. Okay, so the subject are higher education teacher. And the fifth suggestion is to investigate the effect of using AI application in different e-learning contexts, such as free learning, AR, VR, game-based learning. This is another kind of thought, right? And there are different teaching mode. Okay, so how about, for example, in conventional free learning approach or conventional VR or AR or game-based learning approach, and when we treat this conventional free learning or VR, AR or game-based learning approach as the control group, and then we try to incorporate AI application into this environment. For example, the experimental group use AI in free learning, and the control group learn with conventional free learning approach. And another suggestion is that we can investigate in students' learning behavior and interactive behavior. I mean learning behavior or interactive. I mean learning content, interactive content in AI-based learning context. I think this is also a good research topics. Okay, so we can investigate some research question. For example, could the use of AI application in the learning context facilitate students' positive behavior, or are there differences between the behavior pattern of high and low achiever in AI-based learning context? And this is another possible research topics. That is the impact of adaptive learning approach on student AI literacy or learning performance. In this kind of study, an AI become the learning object. Okay, in some AI courses or computer courses, we need students to learn something about AI. So we can try to analyze what kind of approach can help students to learn AI better. Okay. And there is really something like this. Okay, this is STEM-based AI learning in a general education for non-engineering undergraduate students. Okay, this is a study published in some author in Taiwan. I just take it as an example for you. Okay, And before I end this talk, I already tell you every possibility, okay, of AIED research design. Okay. As you can see, that it's not difficult. Okay, you don't have to do every kind of research I suggest. You only need to choose one or two kind of research, and yeah, it's not really not so difficult. Okay, and based on the potential of AIED, and also we decide to develop a new journal in 2020, and I'm one of the editor-in-chief of this journal. We call it Computer and Education, Artificial Intelligence. Okay, and this is an open access journal. Usually, open access journal will charge author for publication fee, but now we have some particular is a particular I say that feedback to the author. Okay, so we encourage author to submit their quality paper to this journal. So we have no article publication charge until June 30 next year, 2022. Okay, so if you are interested in publishing something about AIED and you don't know where to submit, you can submit to this journal. Welcome you. Okay. Also, currently I'm also the editor of HAET. This is an SSCI index journal, and it's also open access and no publication charge. Okay, and of course it is accept all of the paper related to educational technology in higher education. Okay, remember, in higher education. Okay, so it is a higher education journal, and the limit is 8,000. Word count limit is 8,000 words, and the paper need to be in good English. Of course, all the paper need to be in good English. Okay, you are also welcome to submit your paper to this journal. And also, I have some recommended reading. If you are interested in reading this paper, please write an email to me. I will be happy to provide you information regarding this recommended reading. And here I would like to make a conclusion. And I think developing new AI technology are not the main focus of AID research. Okay, it should be the focus of computer science research, okay, not AID. So the focus of AID research include how to employ AI to provide the personalized support or guidance to students, or how to use AI to help teacher better managing the class, or how AI can be worked with existing learning strategy or context or teaching mode. Okay, so this is my talk. Thank you for your listening.
Thank you very much, Dr. Wang. That was a very interesting talk and very valuable. I feel like this is something that I will ask even my students to listen to long after ICCE 2021. We have a question on the Q&A. Those of you who have questions, please feel free to type them in the chat or in the Q&A box. Before I read the question, I'm going to take advantage of the fact that I am the moderator and I will ask my question first. I was very interested in what you said about publication, and so I wanted to ask a question about publication bias. Is it important to us as researchers to report unsuccessful experiments or experiments that show no significant difference? And if so, like, how do journals evaluate papers that report no significant difference or unsuccessful experiments?
Thank you. I think unsuccessful research, I mean unsuccessful outcome mean that the result is not as the author expectation, right? And in my opinion, I think such paper is more welcome than those successful paper. Yeah, because one of my students published a paper regarding the problem and challenge in the mobile learning using mobile technology in a field trip. Okay, and she used a very effective strategy, but the result is failed. The control group had much significantly better performance than the explore group. Okay, that's totally unexpected. So she tried to analyze what happened during the learning process, and then she find the reason, and then she report what she found after her failure in the research, and then she tell people how to avoid such unexpected result. Okay, how to control those possible factors in future study. So the paper is very valuable because it tells people based on her failure, okay, in the research. So if you can find the good reason and very precisely tell people how to avoid such failure, I think that's still a good paper. Yeah. And someone asked the question, I think it's Dr. Yan, and she say no experimental resulting data yet, but only the relationals of the research problem and the methodology. Do you think it's possible to publish in, or do we need to wait for experiment being complete? I think if you do not have any data to show the effectiveness of your approach, you can only publish your paper in some conference. Okay, I think most conferences welcome people to share new idea, even they do not have some data to prove that. But in fact, conference encourage people to share their new idea. Yeah, I think so. But you will encounter another problem. For example, if partial result or your idea have already been published in a conference, and the conference proceeding can be searched online, some journal won't consider your paper. Yeah. For example, CNE, Computer Education. When you submit your paper, they will search the whole database and to find if there are some similar study already published online. Okay, even on your own web page. If you just say, okay, I'm doing something, and you describe your study in your web page and let people know that, then CNE will, the editor will tell you, okay, then you already tell people what you have done, then why bother to publish the same idea again in our journal? Okay, so you need to face those risk. Yeah. So I would suggest that you complete your study and submit it to a journal. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Hwang. Are there other questions from the audience or from any of our panelists? Okay, if there are no more questions, I believe I will thank you very much, Dr. Hwang. Please let us give Dr. Hwang a round of applause, virtual applause. And I will thank you so much. And I will now turn over to our Master of Ceremonies again.
Okay, thank you. See you later.
Thank you. On behalf of ICCE 2021, we present the Certificate of Appreciation to Professor Gwo-Jen HWANG for his keynote today. So once again, thank you very much.
And may I remind you again for today's programs, at around 11, we will have a closing ceremony at this conference hall. Please join us in this remarkable event as we will announce the ICCE Awards and introduce the next host for ICCE. In addition, you will enjoy the live performance from Thailand. Don't miss this event. You will have about an hour to enjoy your coffee, and see you again at 11. Thank you. สวัสดีค่ะ